President Donald Trump has floated the idea of breaking up the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, but it was a weird way that he did it. So he made this declaration that sanctuary cities should no longer get funding from the federal government, and there was an injunction placed on that by Judge Williams Orrick III from the North District of California. In response to that, President Trump said, "There are many people that want to break up the Ninth Circuit. It's outrageous." However, Trump misidentified Orrick as a judge on the Ninth Circuit when in fact the sanctuary cities case would only move up to the Ninth Circuit if the government chose to appeal Orrick's decision.
Oh, that's weird. I thought Trump would have a very clear idea on how the courts work and where this particular judge comes from. It's weird that he would make strong statements about something that he knows nothing about. But yeah, look, here's the thing. There have been talks or attempts to break up the Ninth Circuit in the past. Apparently, like for the last 70 years, this has come up over and over again. But the issue here is more about how Trump wants to do it in response to not getting everything he wants handed to him by these federal judges. That's not how a system of checks and balances works.
Right. It seems like the instinct he would have would be like, you told me no, so I'm gonna break up the fundamental underpinnings of whatever your position is. It also does fit with him that he would have no idea what he's talking about.
But you also don't know what difference it would make if they broke it up, right? I mean, it would still go to, the appeal would still go to a circuit that's based, made up mostly of these judges. And the notion that he would then be able to just fill whatever the new circuit was with his judge, like create the Trump circuit, that's not gonna happen. That's not gonna fly in Congress. And I don't know the process of this, but I think it would be met with a lot of difficulty.
His intentions seem very dictatorial, right? It's the kind of stuff, like, do you see what I'm saying? Because look, you're right, if he were to break up the Ninth Circuit, it's not even ensured that he would get what he wants, right? But I don't think he realizes that, and you know what his intentions are. His intentions are to make it easier for the executive branch to get exactly what they want, exactly what he specifically wants with these executive orders. This is the kind of stuff that we criticize other countries for.
Right, well, and 20th century fascist Europe changed the courts, right? What did they do? They took a hold of the judicial system or judiciary in those countries, totally changed them, stacked them, and ended it, right? And so that, to me, I mean, it wasn't as cut and dried as that, but that's basically what happened. That's an essence of fascism.
Yeah, he's talking about this judge shopping thing, but we have the Supreme Court to kind of be the end of. You go find a court that is more friendly to what you think you want to have happen. They make a judgment one way or another. Sometimes they say, no, sorry, even though we're supposed to be the friendliest court to you, we still are a court, and we've decided against letting this move forward. But it would take 60 votes in an act of Congress to do any of this whatsoever, and they wouldn't be able to get this.
It is also pretty interesting to hear those on the right talk about the importance of states' rights only when it's convenient for them and when it's convenient for them to get what they want, right? So same-sex marriage, for instance, we should leave it up to the states. We should leave it up to the states. Well, when it comes to the issue of sanctuary cities or sanctuary states, isn't that a states' rights issue? I mean, if they genuinely believe in states' rights. And the fact of the matter is they don't. They use that argument only when it's convenient for them.
Yeah.
And how great would it be if the new court with Gorsuch on it, if it gets to that, and Gorsuch is like, no, you're crazy, this is wrong. Just that, for Neil Gorsuch to sort of deliver the ultimate blow on some of this stuff in the Muslim ban, I don't know that it would obviously happen. I don't think it's gonna get there, but that would be just amazing.
I do love the Donald Trump quote where he said, everybody immediately runs to the Ninth Circuit, and we have a big country, we have lots of other locations, but they immediately run to the Ninth Circuit because they know that's like semi-automatic.
That's our president, guys. That is the president of the United States.
Semi-automatic.
We have lots of other locations. He sounds like he's a mattress store, right?
We'll beat anyone's advertised judgment. No, your mattress is free.
Membership helps fund the Young Turks. You know one great thing about that? That means we're not accountable to anyone but you guys. That's why we're strong together, because we built this show around you. Come build it even bigger and better at tytnetwork.com/join.